Let me know when you want.
Doesn't matter right now.
Okay. So,
Figure it out later.
I'm not expecting anyone else, right? Or the other
Nope.
person. All right, do we want to start?
Yep.
All right, so roll call
Counselor Cuddy,
here.
Mr. Andre.
Yeah.
Mr. Love.
Here. All right, so we have the board evaluations, and just wanted to see if there was any feedback based on what we received. And any thoughts before we bring it before the board? The general board? I mean,
Yeah, so.
I could speak to a couple things. I do, based on memory, I do think that it is moving in the right direction. In the sense that, the last couple years have been definitely more in the, like, somewhat agree to somewhat disagree range. I feel like we're moving in the right direction. And so that's a good sign, obviously, as noted in the self-evaluation. There are things that we do need to improve upon. I know that in my comments, as was the last couple of years, I felt that, it's transition time. And it still is a transition time, but at least I feel like we're on stable ground. The first time I feel like we're on stable ground. Based on our partnership with MRB and rectifying some of the issues with our, with after our audit. 2 years ago, or not this past one, but the one before. So I think we're moving in the right direction. But obviously, if there's anything else that my colleagues on the governance board wanted to know, specifically, to bring before the board.
I think that to your point, our somewhat disagrees are only one-offs, that it's, you might have a person that disagrees, but it seems a lot more like feel to me. Certainly, this is the most stable this
Yes,
organization has been since I've been on it. This is
yes.
nearly 3 years now that, but I feel like the last year has been much better.
Yes, and case in point, Bomer, we hadn't had a pilot like that in a long time. So we know, at least I know things are going right when we have businesses coming in and asking for pilots, so that's a good sign. And we're hoping for more in the future. So,
Yeah, and looking at this, it seems like, and what I can say is it's not like all of these disagrees were the same person. Like it was a mix of people, so what I didn't see, which I see with the time, is like people going straight down the line, and that's not what happened. Like, it does seem like people really thought about this.
Mhm.
And it seems like, and there was disagreement with multiple people on different measures.
Yeah,
So, but it seems to me that a lot of these ones that have a disagree or a little more on the somewhat agree category are kind of around the role of the board from an oversight perspective. Risk analysis, setting clear direction, communication with the executive staff, you know, it
Mhm.
seems like those are the ones that are a little more wobbly, and it's a matter of perhaps as we continue to talk about what the different mechanisms mean, people may feel more comfortable, say, delaying a vote, you know, when they're more
Yeah.
familiar with the application and the mechanisms we use. So that's kind of what I understand here, is it's really that oversight piece that is what people are a little bit nervous about in different ways.
Yeah, and I will say that, you know, because of some of the recent issues, it is, I think, I'll speak for myself, but I also think that for several of my colleagues on the board, you know, because of the more recent issues, I'm more aware and in tune of, you know, what we need to be doing to make sure that we are in compliance and, you know, moving things forward, whereas I do feel that, um, CETA, when it was operating in its prime, really did a lot for the board, and, we've had to pick up that slack, and I think that in some ways is a good thing. And as we move forward, I think it's gonna give us that discipline that we need to do that. So obviously, there are other ways to get more engaged with, with the board, but again, CETA did a very good job, and we're happy that MRB that we're working with MRB to kind of get get back to where we used to be but I think it's also, as I said, it's helped the board be more engaged.
There's no way to get you more. So, to throw you in, like, listen to, I mean, I think that was laid bare for all of us.
Yeah.
I hate to put it this way, but I think it was laid bare to all of us, what a terrible job we get done in terms of oversight.
Yeah, I'm guilty, yeah, definitely. But I mean, again, so
I hate to put it that way,
No.
that nobody in particular did it, but there's a couple of things that you recognize coming into this past year, which was a lot of folks on the board didn't know what to even look for when we were looking at things like financial reports.
Yeah.
I think now we've got, Tracy does a much better job of explaining our way through all
Yeah.
of these things we used to have. And I think we kind of understand the process better than we probably did previously. I think there are other things that we're not gonna ever be able to really oversee as much as we want to. There were
Yeah.
some things that came out of that audit, like checks that were being written without being entered into QuickBooks first. I'm sure Tracy's not gonna do that, so.
Yeah.
So I feel better about it, but those were things that we couldn't have known. I don't know how we could have done a better job given what we had.
Absolutely, but again, yeah, so we're able to at least know what to look for now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, let's,
Or at least ask the questions.
right, we can be more cautious about it.
Yes.
We give answers to some. This is like this one about board members. Demonstrating leadership and vision and working respectfully with each other. I don't remember a time we weren't working respectfully with each other, so. It'd be interesting to find out where some of these answers come from.
Maybe in future ones, we can ask for people to give examples or ask for people to comment on their disagreements, so that we have more guidance on those things in particular.
Yeah, because the things you do well, you obviously, if we do that well, let's keep doing it that way, but when somebody says, like, well,
Yeah,
what could we
yeah.
do better?
Yeah, I think, a good point, I think with that one. I think that might be, just I don't know how to say it, just. I don't know, that's good, Dan, that's a good point. Obviously, there is someone here that. Does disagree that there's respectful, but I think if we just. Try to. But figure out what that might mean. What, no, what, how far down, Dan?
It's right at toward the bottom, I think it's at the last one that has a one by some, and it's just. that
Yeah,
just
the
caught
second
my
to
attention,
last.
But a bunch of these are that same way, if you look up. Individual board members communicate effectively with executive staff so as to be well informed. On the status of all important issues, just personally, I feel like. If individual board members are having trouble communicating. With executive staff. It is a bit of a you issue.
Yeah, I think some
I
of
don't
these
feel
might
that
be,
there's any issue
Yeah.
between. Anybody that I'm aware of communicating with, Tracy and
Someone must hate.
Grace.
well,
Metrics.
I think it's like, I mean, there might be some misinterpretation of the question too.
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
asking. I
Yeah.
wish that we had some explanation here, and I think maybe next time we go through this, we can leave room for people who disagree to say like, well, how can we improve it, or can you give a reason for the answer so that we know how to
Yeah.
attack what that is?
Yeah, I don't think anyone would be comfortable, saying like, who wrote it? Like, like, I don't think, but I do think it may be, in general, when we do bring this up before the board, maybe just say like, in general, like, we did make note that there may be, a few members that might feel that we may not work as respectfully as we could. And, that may mean, just, I guess, I don't know what that means, but I don't know. You know what that means?
Heads up, be nice to each
Be
other.
nice to me. I think we are. I mean, there may be some residual thought of like residual from like prior to this year. You know what I'm saying? Like I think because the years kind of blend into each other and we still haven't found our footing. I mean, thanks to MRB we have, but I still think the fact that there's no governmental or like, quasi-governmental, not-for-profit kind of doing the, the work, it may seem like we're, I'm comfortable where we are right now. I am, I think, MRB is doing a great job doing the meat and potato stuff, which when like the last incarnation of CETA obviously wasn't. So there may be some residual of like, even, how about this? That interpretation could be, when CETA was part of Cayuga Strategic Solutions, there may have been this like the respectful, like not being communicated with from that
Yeah, I guess.
organization.
But
You know what I'm saying? But again, it could be that kind of like residual, like we're not where, we haven't reached that place yet. We haven't found the place yet. That would be my interpretation, so. But
I
go
would
ahead.
agree with you, like even on this first question, I feel like we have spent an entire year. Making sure that we all have a shared understanding of our mission and purpose. I
Yeah.
feel like that's been what we've done the whole year. The policies, practices are consistent with the mission. I feel like
Yeah.
we've been making sure that that's
Thorough,
what we
yeah,
do. But
yeah.
the board sets clear and measurable performance goals. We literally have them all written out what our goals are.
Yes, yes.
So I guess with some of these, and I am not trying to disagree with this person or argue. What I'm saying is that I really like that information. If we don't feel that we have it, then I'd like to know. You know,
Well, the
what we
thing,
have to do to meet it, that's all.
the good thing that Tracy said is that it wasn't the same person.
I kind of wish
That-
it was.
No, well,
Because-
this is just a contrarian.
Well, because the comment at the bottom, the comment here that says, I feel I need more work and experience to understand it, would explain why somebody might disagree with someone.
Yeah, I think that might,
I don't wanna jump in and say I firmly agree with all this, cause I just don't understand it well enough, and that would at least explain it to me.
yeah, I think, well, maybe you're pointing to the answer,
No,
right?
it's, I should not be this bothered by it.
I think,
So I think what this is helpful in doing is saying like, hey, here are some things to watch out for and to consider as we're having conversations throughout this year. And, you know, like with this working respectfully one, to your point, the context is a little mixed because they could have been responding to leadership and vision. Been responding to respectfully. We don't really know. So I think this is something that we should keep in mind next year, like during the next set of evaluations to say, you know, like if you have a disagreement, like it would be great to have some context as to why. And that will help us better address any issues. There might are. But I think that this is really a good place to say, okay, like, we know this oversight piece is a little bit, still a little bit wonky, there's still some levels of discomfort around some of the oversight and communication within the structure, and that's just something to keep an eye on. Bill, do you have anything to add here?
Yeah. I will say, I'm trying to remember now, since my concussion, remembering. I can recall it the best. I agree with Dan, that first one was really bad. There was one that I would somewhat disagree, but that's what I've been trying to remember. I keep going through that. I think it was one of my conversations that I've had with the board in the last couple of meetings. I can't remember what one it is, but I've got a feeling we put a lot of these down. I don't want to point that person out. Sometimes people just have different views of things. But as far as the board being respectful, I've been, as everyone knows, I've been on a lot of boards in my adult life, and this is probably the most respectful one I've been on, so I can't understand why I'm thinking anything different. And I always feel that if I do have something that's rubbing me the wrong way, I certainly speak up, and nobody comes back at me and tells me I'm crazy, although they might be thinking it. They're telling me,
And that's key,
what's that?
and that's key to showing respect. Don't tell people what you think about it.
So, yeah, I don't know, I think, it's good that you find these things and work on them. It'll be interesting so we'll go through this with the entire board.
Yeah.
I will say one thing, I think sometimes these meetings can be hijacked by one or two people. I think Gwen has been a fantastic addition. She's only been with us for 3 years now. And she's been the chairperson for 1. I think sometimes she comes off a little overpowering. And that's something that might come off wrong to some people, or not wrong, but I can't think of a word. Some people might find that too much. I've known Gwen for a long time, so I just know that's Gwen. I just know it's a personality. But I don't even know, that might just be something I'm thinking.
Well, I think she wants to keep the meeting going, and think her thoroughness is, for me, a good thing. And, obviously, her and the former chair and different,
Yeah.
different. But I do find, I do find that she's definitely more, I guess, thorough and serious and wants to make sure all voices are heard. I think that that's a good thing. And, I just think it's different than the previous chair. So, and the other thing is that, Gwen inherited like a real difficult situation. And, and I think she has gotten us to a point where we can be more on the agree side, and whereas I think prior, it was, as I was saying earlier, we had a lot of somewhat disagrees and a lot of somewhat agrees during those. So I think, to Dan's point earlier, like, we have spent the last year revisiting our mission, purpose, and I think I think, like, Gwen's taking special care of us getting to why we're here, what we're doing, and what we plan on doing. So, but yeah, I think we're, we're on the right track. We'll bring this before the board. And now, Tracy, do we have to vote on, like, just accepting this, or we're just kind of just it's more of a conversation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is more to discuss. The board doesn't need.
Okay. Oh, yeah, do you need this one too, maybe?
It'd be really nice too, if we could start, if we could have a more stable board.
We got a stable, but finally, I think we got a board.
How long will it stay stable?
The better stay
There's
stable.
one vacancy right now.
Oh, we do have one?
Yeah.
I gotta start looking then. I didn't know that.
Katie has, Katie
Well, that's
hasn't been brought in.
Suggestion.
Okay. Okay, good. I'll hold off but I kind of spaced out for a second. Okay,
Yes. Cause you never. know. People's lives change.
We always have to remember too, with this kind of open evaluation like this, some people just like to be difficult or important to use. I know on superintendent evaluations that I still do to this day. One, the one we use of BOCES, that every year I complain about it. It just. I think the world of Dr. Rupp, I think he's phenomenal, he's moved, I don't know what you think. But I think he's moved, I'm the senior board member out there, and he's the third, if you wanna call it, if she was ever a superintendent, I don't know. She was such a short time.
very, very short.
And I was the person that said, oh, we're making a mistake, but we hired, but anyways, every year I just don't make that evaluation, and there's somebody on that board, and I know who it is. Mention the name or district, that is hard on. He's phenomenal. And every time you see the comments that are not good, everyone on that board knows who it's coming from. But yeah, in regular board meetings, she's not like that, but I think when she gets an evaluation where she can, without her name attached, she can take swipes at it.
But that's part of the process. I mean, everybody, you know what I'm saying? I think, and the good thing about this is it's more kind of like a self-evaluation rather than, obviously the director would be their staff, and the director is somehow ancillary in here, but this is more kind of a self-evaluation. But I think, we'll bring up what our thoughts are, governance committee on this. And I think, we might get somebody to say like, oh, well, the reason why I said this, the reason why I said that. I think we might get a couple. People that'll, like, say something.
So for our purposes, does this committee create this form?
This is
So we don't.
Do we have to use this before?
It's-
I like that. I don't wanna make a new form.
Well, we do have the one mid-year that we did, create, that the one that we used last year, that's something that Gwen and I pulled together and can adjust and change as we see fit, and that one can be more catered to what we want to measure.
That's why I was wondering, cause I was like, I thought we just filled out it.
So this is the Paris one.
Yes, yeah, this is the annual one that we have to send
Gotcha.
to, we have to send the compiled results to the state to show that we did it.
Okay.
And they look at it.
Makes sense, so I'm not going crazy then.
And this year, that kind of mid-year one, we did a little bit late in the year, so in 2020, this year, or I'm sorry, last year, in 2025, we'll try to do it more in like June, July.
Yeah. I remember, yeah.
And that one is a little bit, we can cater a little bit more to what we want to talk about.
I think we're good with that. Did you want to talk about board priorities?
Yeah, this is just a follow-on to the conversation at the last board meeting, about kind of perhaps narrowing in what some of our actual priorities are, because this is pretty broad and has a lot of stuff in it. So really focusing on these community value section to say, you know, what really are our priorities that we should be looking at as a board and considering, and, you know, so this is just kind of a follow-on conversation to that of what should we be working into our evaluation process, if anything. It's possible the answer is that we toss this out completely and don't make it part of the process, because that's fine, it's not required.
Oh, no. So we talked about this last time. I mean, my opinion on it is that most of this stuff is, I mean, most of it's great. These are all really great things to use when you evaluate a project, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the kind of thing that's official. I think we should be asking ourselves these questions as we go along so that we don't barrel headlong into some things. I know you brought up some projects we might not have, you know, maybe shouldn't have been involved in the past. Before, and I think it makes a lot of sense for us to ask ourselves a bunch of questions and to have some guiding documentation that says to us, like, here's the questions that you should be asking and evaluating a project on. You don't necessarily have to base your decision on all of those things, but these are all questions to ask yourself. You know, if you can get through all of these things, for example, in community value, and none of, you know, these things besides, you know, let's say one of them fits in here, maybe we're not in the right place. You know, maybe if it certainly doesn't align with our values, then it just doesn't, maybe it just doesn't belong here, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, and so I think part of the question that I'm trying to, or what I'm trying to work through is this something we want to start? Is there some component of this that we want to start including in the application? Like, do we want to start asking them about any of these items so that we have that information up front? Or is this something that you want to do in that initial conversation with the project, just to get a feel for how they're aligning with this? We can add a checklist, we can add some additional questions that they need to provide narrative on. So I just want to know, I'm just looking to see what kind of level of.
So you're thinking like either we front load this or we kind of have it in our toolbox as we approach that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes. Do you want this to be an internal tool, which, keeping in mind in the application as it is, you're not gonna get all of this information.
Yeah.
So like you don't necessarily have any way of knowing what their corporate social responsibility is.
Yeah.
Or what their programming around community engagement is, because that's not asked for in the application. So I guess my question is, are there any items here that we really want to make sure that we're digging into? Because they're that high of a priority, or because like to Bill's point at our last meeting, we shouldn't put anything in policy that is not something we're going to follow through on.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, based on what Bill said and what Dan said,
Yeah.
I really think, we're at a point now where we're not getting a lot of calls.
Mhm.
And like, we're in no place to be like, okay, here are the preconditions, or anything that maybe seeds as preconditions for people calling in. Obviously, I think we should be thinking about these as we are, as board members. Moving forward, obviously, we've been using a lot of these since we've been on the board. But yeah, I mean, I do think, when somebody does come in, when we do get the phone calls or applications, I'm more interested to hear what's going on, is this gonna help Auburn, is this gonna like hire a lot of people, is this gonna really be a benefit to our ability to be, to bring business and employers into the area, so that's, and I think we really need to, the idea now is like, we need to be ready, eager to like work with business to make this happen. So, yeah, I like this as a internal document that we use as a framework, but I don't know if it needs to be like codified into like an official checklist as we, as we move forward. Bill, what do you think?
Yeah.
Got anything?
I agree, as much as I dislike saying it. I agree, because we don't wanna right off the bat scare people away, and that pains me to say that. Oh, we don't wanna scare people away. And you don't have the initial conversation. And then kind of dig into some of this.
great. Love it.
And that's just the governance committee saying this, like, I mean, obviously the full board might have a different perspective, but, I say the same thing here as I would there, just. Let's get people knocking on the door first, get the applications in, and then they can.
Can I ask something, because I missed a couple of meetings, I believe in a row, when I had my concussion, and my sister-in-law was bad when she died. Whatever happened to the project on Seymour Street, the lumber company?
They went ahead and they built their rail component. And then now they're gonna go to site plan, because they realized that they couldn't really do their site plan until they knew where exactly the rail was. So now that the rail is done or nearly done, they're gonna go do their site plan. And once their site plan is done, theoretically, they're coming back to us.
So they're still gonna use the same site?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep, no, they're still using that site. They were working with Finger Lakes Railroad to get the rail in there, and it turned out for them, that just needed to get done before they could do anything
Okay.
else. So.
Thank
So it's still in progress. I don't know for sure that they're gonna come back or not.
Who is that?
A builder's choice.
Right.
The lumber company, yeah.
There's one more out.
It's-
I think that counts.
Yeah, so project is,
yeah, it's a good project.
and we've had, there've been a couple of companies that have reached out to various people about rail access and like transloading and stuff, so
Good.
if they're willing to do that, it seems like there is interest in that from the business community, so.
Mhm.
And really, I have to say on this, like, as we look through it, the biggest thing for me that really stands out is like providing a living wage. I think that if a job, to your point, if most businesses would come here and they're looking for some help, I think we would give them the fair shake, but if we knew, this is X manufacturer, we're gonna bring you 150 jobs. We're going to pay the minimum wage. I don't know, we have to think about things.
Yeah, right, no, we made decisions based on that in the past.
So I think it's good to have sort of a guiding sort of document where you can look back at it. Well, that is a thing we're thinking about. But I think front loading it and making it part of the paperwork, it's just making more paper,
Yeah,
and nobody likes paper.
Yeah, and, one thing to. This is not related to the priority, so what I'll do with this is. I think what we realize is like, this is kind of not. Helpful, because it's everything, and totally, it's like everything and nothing altogether. And the metrics are, pretty obvious, so I think what I'm gonna do is kind of like. Create just a values document that we can share when we have an application in as like a reminder of like, hey, these are the values. Get rid of some of the clutter on
Yeah.
this.
I get it.
So we
I like the
can focus on
metrics.
the metrics.
I like that just as a sort of. Like a quick reference on a particular project is like, this is the number of jobs we're talking about, here's here's the target. I think all of that is really good. Especially like that local labor percentage for construction jobs, all of that I think is really good information for us every time we consider something. And that, I think the community value stuff is really important.
So, because this is all stuff that I can actually get out of the application and put in like a cover page. I think with Bowmere, that cover page I did, I think I included all of this. So I'm hoping to make that a habit and to put those metrics, and then we can just have this as a separate list.
I would say when I look at that community values thing, what I think about is. As we can tick those boxes for various projects, that makes it easier for us to market later on. Here's this big project that's happening, and here's why it works for our community. It's just a way easier way for us to come out. Talk about the positive things that we're doing and why. That's all.
Any unfinished business or you good? I call to adjourn before our big meeting. We good? All right. 20 minutes.